Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, 27-year veteran of the NYPD. What we're seeing in the Koberger case, and you see on the left, delay, Koberger trial. However, Judge Hippler, in one of the last hearings, said to the defense and the prosecution, I think you should be ready to go to trial on the date that we have assigned. So if that's not a signal before he put out his last or his next rulings, I think it's a rather big signal. But yet we're hearing from the defense that they don't have the discovery, all the discovery material. We have Ann Taylor complaining that the prosecution didn't categorize it and index it. That they're not required to do that. And I think that's more evidence that Ann Taylor is just grasping for straws. She clearly is not ready right now, and we hear that word continuance. It seems like maybe she's ready for the trial, but she's not ready for the sentencing part in the wake of him being found guilty. Then there's a whole other part of it, the death penalty part, the penalty part of this case. So is that what Ann Taylor is talking about? Because she should first worry about the trial and giving her client good representation during this trial. So no more delay, because I think the family and the victims deserve much better than that. So, folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your cup of coffee. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From Major League Baseball, UFC to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your close choice for sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline, the game starts here. Joining me today is retired NYPD Sergeant, Professor at Albertus Magnus College, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Welcome, Mike.
Bill, good to see you. Thank you for having me on for the show.
Oh, there we go. There's the different look. There's the look we were told is more attractive. I don't know. We'll go with that look. Anyway, Mike, so you're familiar with this case. You've been covering almost every single episode with me, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty because August 11th is when the trial's supposed to start. Now, they're supposed to be going to pick a jury very soon, right? And so they'll be going to voir dire procedures. But Ann Taylor is trying to get this case continued. And her argument is largely that she's not ready. So whose fault is that? For 2.5 years, you're not ready. And the voluminous nature of all of the evidence that the prosecution has handed over. And when she makes some of these arguments, you're like, are you kidding me? They're not going to index the evidence for you. They simply have to hand it over to you. And much of the evidence, us people in the true crime world, we don't even know about all the evidence. Not all of the evidence is out there because there's a gag order. Detective case folders. Has anyone seen those? For the large part, no. The answer is no. So there is a voluminous amount of evidence, even evidence that Ann Taylor is not talking about, that we in the general public, even with the Freedom of Information law, we're not seeing this evidence. So obviously, is Ann Taylor a little bit running scared that she sees the amount of evidence the prosecution has, and she's simply trying to stall? Mike.
Bill, I agree with your monologue. Yeah, this is not Ann Taylor's first, up at bat in the major leagues. Here she is. She's been a public prosecutor for a while. Now she's a defender. She's done other capital punishment cases because that's why she was assigned to this particular case, because she has experience in that. This is not the first time that she's had a case with voluminous, evidence from, computers, videos, DNA, eyewitness statements, other witnesses, police officers, DD5 follow-ups, investigative follow-ups. This is not her first time. She knows this is the kind of evidence that comes in these cases. She knows that. Maybe it was more than usual, a little bit more, but the fact is, this is not strange to her. This is not new territory to her. And for her to keep asking a continuance, I think, look, if she was my attorney, I'd want her to do that. She's doing the best she can with the cards that were dealt her. Between all the evidence they've got, we talked it over. We don't even know about all the other evidence. They seem to have the right guy. So she's got to work it out for her. She is, you're right, looking at post-conviction when she should be looking at trial prep. That post-conviction stuff regarding what you do at the penalty phase, mitigation and aggravation, that should have been assigned completely to an assistant. And then she could look it over occasionally. But right now, she's doing trial prep. She should be working 12 and 14-hour days, getting ready for direct and cross-examination of the witnesses. And she shouldn't be doing anything else. Hippler is right. August 11th is go.
Mike, it's sort of crazy. And you read a lot of the people in the true crime world. And a lot of people, think that there's even people that think Koberger is being framed. There's trumping up evidence. I assure you that's not happening. But in a criminal trial, not everything is on the table when the trial starts. And yes, should the defense attorney know the stuff? Yeah, but it used to be in New York City, and I know they changed the laws, but a prosecutor would hand boxes and boxes of discovery on the date the trial was starting. And of course, what would the defense attorney say? Your Honor, I need at least 2 months to go through all of this. So it was sort of like that was what was done. And I'm not saying that's done here, but I guarantee you there is discovery that the prosecution has that they have not yet turned over to the defense. And at some point, at post time, at kickoff time, when you hear that whistle blow, they're going to hand it to Ann Taylor.
Yeah, Bill, just think about it. You've got the Moscow, Idaho PD. You've got the Idaho State Police. You've got the FBI. And the FBI is very reticent about handing over discovery material. They're very slow. And there's a lot of issues that they don't want, or secrets maybe, perhaps, with the DNA evidence, with how it was analyzed, the cutting edge IgG technology. And they are really slow. But a prosecutor's, ethical duty to turn over discovery evidence of, that implicates or exonerates the defendant continues even after the trial starts. So if something comes in from the FBI 3 days after the trial starts, we have Bill Thompson has to turn it over. And that's the way it goes. And if Ann Taylor discovers something 3 days into trial that, it looks bad for Koberger, she's supposed to turn that over too. That's the way it goes. But I think the fact that she took on another death penalty case speaks volumes about how backlogged she really is. I think she's really looking to push this off, hoping, praying for a plea offer. That's what I think she's doing.
I think it's a good possibility. Let me play this from the hearings.
His due process rights, his rights to a fair trial, his rights to effective assistance of counsel, rights to confrontation, Mr. Koberger's right to present a full defense, and if it should come to it, a fair sentencing hearing and to be free of cruel and unusual punishment. The record of this case spans 2.5 years, and it shows that this request does not come as a surprise. Looking through the history of this case shows that the defense has met challenges and difficulties along the way, but has been dedicated in meeting all of the deadlines. We have talked about the discovery issues in this courtroom before, and that in large part brings us to need a continuance. 68 terabytes of information is a huge amount of information. There have been 23 requests for additional discovery over the span of 2.5 years and 7 motions to compel. When I say that this doesn't come as a surprise, that this comes from the record, I would direct the court to look back to May of 2023 and June of 2023 and our second motion to compel. Included in that was what was known as Exhibit A from the defense, and that depicted how we were receiving discovery. So this is not a new issue. This is something that's been coming up for a long time. We were receiving discovery, but it was such that you would get a file that would say hundreds of photographs, hundreds of pages of reports, each having to be looked at individually to know what was there and then organized.
So there's the whole thing, hundreds of photographs, hundreds. Is it the job of the prosecution to explain what the evidence is to the defense?
No.
That's why she needed a staff to do this, because the evidence is voluminous, but it's not their job to category every piece they hand over. How about all of the video cameras that were canvassed and all of the video? That's the terabyte information, obviously. Do they need to explain each and every video? That's ridiculous. That's the job of the defense. They only need to hand over the discovery, not give an explanation as to what it is.
Exactly. It's up to Ann Taylor to manage her office, have a paralegal or an office assistant go over each and every, that's their job, to go over each and every bit. If there's a series of 100 photographs, put them in chronological order, categorize them. That's their job. The only job the prosecutor has is to turn it over, not to do the analysis on it. So she's in over her head, and I think she's afraid a little bit of being, I'm not going to say maybe outclassed, but appearing not to fully understand the evidence that's there, pleading for a little bit more help. Again, she doesn't want to go to trial. I'm thinking she wants to probably get a plea, but in a case like this is not her first time at bat. She's had cases like this where there's been a lot of voluminous evidence, maybe not as much, but still, this is nothing new to her. Shame on her for not having a better, well-organized office.
Mike, one of the things that I noticed, and you play poker, right? And you know what a poker face is, and it's someone that gives up their hand by their face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I will make a comparison here. Bill Thompson has the ultimate poker face, is not showing any of his hand on his face. Ann Taylor is showing her hand. She's worried. She is afraid that she's not prepared. She wants more time. But guess what? 2.5 years have gone by. 2.5 years. So this judge is not impressed. Judge Hippler is not impressed that you're not prepared. And as he said the other day, be prepared to go to trial on August 14th.
This case has also faced unique issues, starting with the media coverage of this high-profile case, non-dissemination orders that were addressed in courts, and then the grand jury materials that we had to fight to get access to before we could properly challenge the grand jury indictment. We faced issues with discovery, particularly with the IGG materials. We spent a great deal of time trying to get access to those materials. Those were ultimately what we could get, was ultimately presented in a motion to suppress, and that's preserved should there be a conviction in this case. We faced venue issues in this case, culminating in the change of venue and bringing us to Ada County. At the first hearing in this courtroom, we discussed the discovery issues and not having read everything and being ready with a full investigation in this case. That was apparent through our motions to strike the death penalty, our motions to compel expert disclosures filed in September and December of 2024, and requests for more time to file our motions in limine that was granted in January of 2025. Throughout the course of the motions in limine and then a motion to strike death based on discovery issues in February and March of this year, the record is replete with notice that we are not prepared to go to trial in this case. The discovery is vast and we have not had a chance to review it all.
Something, I'm just almost amazed at this, and the judge talk about a poker face. Although he's showing his emotion, he's showing he doesn't care that she's not ready because he's made a decision. Well, he hasn't made an official decision, but it appears that he's making a decision to go forward. So no matter how much Ann Taylor cries about this and we're not ready, we need more time, strike the death penalty, Brian Koberger should get due process. That's what he's been getting for 2.5 years. And for you to say now, as Judge Hippler would say, at the 11th hour, that you need a continuance, guess what? No. Mike.
Bill, Judge Hippler knows he's on solid ground denying that. This is, again, in many other cases in years past, and even maybe in Hippler's own, courtroom, he's had, defense attorneys doing the same tactic. Ann Taylor put maybe all of her eggs into one basket, trying to get rid of the DNA through allegations of improper search and seizure, without a warrant, that sort of thing. We discussed that months ago. She put a lot of effort into that. And unfortunately, she didn't put a lot of effort, it seems, or to have her office work on other things, the practical stuff. Who are the witnesses going to be? Let's start looking at their grand jury testimony. Let's see the DD5. Let's see what detectives are going to be showing up. All the nuts and bolts of it. She spent a lot of information, a lot of time on the big picture issue, hoping for, that one big hammer blow to knock out the DNA out of the trial, hoping that would severely weaken the case for the prosecution. But she's caught flat-footed now, and it's not up to the judge to relieve her of her ethical obligations under the Sixth Amendment. Judge Hippler, has an ethical duty to ensure that Brian, Koberger himself gets due process, a timely trial. We can't go, this is the USA. We don't go 3 years because we're looking in August, it'll be 2 years and like 9 months. How far can we go before we put this man on trial? He deserves due process.
100%. This is what they keep pointing to that has prejudiced the jury pool. And of course, this is the Dateline NBC. I'll play a little bit of this.
Steps from campus. In the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were stabbed to death. Their accused killer, Brian Koberger, faces trial this summer. He's pleaded not guilty. For the last 2.5 years, Dateline has been on the ground, reporting, gathering, and learning from people with direct...
He actually did not plead not guilty. The judge entered a plea for him. So that was a little bit of incorrect information. Just want to point that out.
...knowledge of the case. We've obtained things that have never before been seen publicly. Like these security videos from a camera on a house near the murder scene. Videos that show a white sedan, a car that investigators believe was driven by Brian Koberger, making repeated passes at the King Road house that night before the murders.
I just want to put something out there. Many people that watch this show and they watch the true crime people, where the hell are they getting this? The Hyundai was green. Where are they getting that from? From day one, the police said we're looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. Day one, there was never any spoken of a green. And then in these videos that are from the morning of the murders, there's a white Hyundai Elantra. So stop with this green Hyundai. I don't know where you guys get that from, Mike.
Bill, this is unfortunately when there's like very little information, there's a vacuum of information. People are going to make stuff up. The Martians came down and killed the 4 kids. There was one point where somebody said it was a bartender, that it was a professor at the Washington University, or it was a drug hit. Could you imagine the Cali drug cartel coming in and stabbing people rather than shooting people? It was just ridiculous. And unfortunately, you do get a lot of people who they're not really paying attention. So they hear something and they don't really connect it to something else. And suddenly somebody alters a fact and they're like, wow, I didn't know that. Geez, I thought it was a white Hyundai. Wow. Oh my God, that black and white video, that could be a green Hyundai. I don't get it. But I guess as a cop and, law enforcement, we don't get it. But maybe if you're not actually paying attention, you might be swayed by it, but it's sad because it's misleading people.
100%. Let me go back to the Dateline NBC.
With evidence like this and our reporting, we have assembled a timeline for the weeks, months, and days before and after the murders. Starting with a pool party Koberger attended in July, just after he moved to the area in pursuit of his PhD in criminology. An exclusive interview with a woman who exchanged numbers with Koberger, then did not return his text.
You know, the universe intervened and for whatever reason just distracted me from further engaging in that interaction.
We'll also reveal records from Koberger's cell phone that are in the possession of law enforcement and Google searches regarding the serial killer Ted Bundy. We have also seen these: dozens of photos in Koberger's cell phone, browsing history, women from Washington State and the University of Idaho, including close friends of the King Road victims.
Now, again, in his phone, all of these photographs, circumstantial evidence at best, but
Right.
friends of the victims. There's a bit of a nexus there, I would say, Mike. You know, that there's it's showing that he's been to that area. Doesn't it say that?
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah,
people
Bill.
that deny the 23 times he reconned 1122 King Road. There's people, oh, that's not true. You know, well, how did he also get these photographs of students that went to the University of Idaho that were friends of the victims? He was obviously in that area, Mike.
Yeah, Bill. It's, as you say, at best, it's circumstantial evidence, but it is kind of strange that he has, pictures, and therefore he's been on people's Facebook pages and taken photographs with his camera on his phone of Facebook pages of girls he hasn't met, but whose Facebook he's looking at, and maybe he saw a link to Madison Mogen or Kaylee or Xana, something like that, and started following, just happened to be following them, stumbled across them, rather than hunt them down, but stumbled across them. It was intrigued by what he saw and decided to start following them. And then you look at the timeline from that point on, maybe when you see his first recon, well, we would consider recon, visit into that area. Now, maybe we can't put him on that street the very first time, but I'm wondering if the cell tower pings match up with any Ring doorbell camera footage of his car going into that area. Because people say, oh, your phone bounces off a cell tower, you might be 5 miles away. Fine, I'll go with that. That's the technology. But let's see about the Ring doorbell camera. Let's see when it was pinging where he was. So I think a lot
Well,
of
Mike, you know something with his phone won't be pinging because he turned it off.
Oh, right. Did he turn it off
So,
though?
but when he leaves at some point, he turns it back on. But
Right.
during the event, he turned his cell phone off.
Right.
'Cause he, after all, is a criminology student. He knows that is one of the ways that the police track you. I want to play this quickly, Mike, from Prime Video. This is another documentary because I'm playing this because this is another reason Ann Taylor is saying that she needs a continuance, because there's so much prejudicial information out there in lieu of Dateline NBC, Prime Video, and books coming out, right? Howard Bloom put out his book, and of course, James Patterson has a book coming out in July.
Right.
So this is all prejudicial to the defense and prejudicial to getting a impartial. So there's another Prime Video documentary coming out on July 11th. And Ann Taylor is again for Dateline NBC, Prime Video on July 11th, James Patterson's book, Howard Bloom. But from Judge Hippler's perspective, every time something is written or broadcast about this case, is he supposed to give a continuance because Ann Taylor thinks it's prejudicing the jury? I think it's a stretch. It's a stretch, Mike, a huge stretch.
Right. I mean, there's always been trials of the century. We could talk about Sam Shepard, O.J. Simpson. All these cases happen every couple of years. There's a new trial of the century, and they go on. And we do the best we can. You do not get a fair trial, a perfect trial. You get a fair trial, as fair as we can make it. That's the way it goes. There's been newspapers in the past and radio. Now it's the internet. And that's the world we live in. And that's the way Hippler is addressing it. We're going to go forward. We're not going to sit there and wait for, 90 days or 180 days and hope that nothing is written, nothing is put out there about the case. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. He's absolutely right saying, we're going to go ahead. You can have your appeals later, Ms. Taylor. You can do that. If there's a conviction, you can do it. But we are going ahead.
Absolutely. This is also a new information in regards to the DoorDash driver, which has sort of set everyone on edge.
You have to testify in which murder case?
Did we just find out about a major witness planning to testify in Brian Koberger's upcoming murder trial? Through body cam footage from an unrelated DUI stop 2 years after the killings of those 4 college students, people online and reporting indicates this woman, a potential delivery driver, may have seen Brian Koberger at the crime scene. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
So if this woman saw Brian Koberger in front of 1122 King Road on the early morning hours, perhaps 0359 or 0400 hours, and she can identify him. We've said this before. That is huge. It puts him on the scene. And we said very early on in this case, this was not something new. This is something new that's coming out again now. But this was known to the police about a DoorDash driver a week or so, or even sooner than that, after the crimes. And they would have interviewed her in depth, got it on paper, memorialized it, and also showed her what you see on the screen here. And that's not an actual photo array with Brian Koberger in it, but I just want to show you what a photo array or a photo lineup looks like. She would have been shown a photo array and say, which do you recognize anyone in this photo array that you may have seen on early morning hours of 11/13/22 in the 2022 in the car next to you? And whether she could pick out Brian Koberger or not, that will determine how good of a witness she is. If she couldn't pick him out, that doesn't help them that much. But if she can, it's huge. Mike, this show went so damn fast. Your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. There is so much out there that we don't know about, including ME stuff. I just read DD5 follow-ups, witness statements, what was found in the searches of his Washington apartment, after the search warrants were executed. There is so much out there that we don't know. And so everybody should just hang tight. The case is going to start August 11th. And so hang in there. And there's a lot of information, a lot of evidence against Brian Koberger. Rest assured.
100%. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. The show goes so fast. Be advised that we will be covering this case and we'll be bringing you new information as it comes in, and bring it from only our perspective, a police perspective. Have a great day. On behalf of myself, Bill Cannon, and Professor Mike Geary, have a great day, everyone.
Take care.
One episode just ain't enough.